What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. And this is my CLA 45 AMG, and this is financed. Now in today's video I'm going to talk about car finance because there's so much misconception about car financiers in general, and I thought I'm going to dedicate a full video explaining, first of all, how to get a good car finance, how to build your credit, and my opinion about car finances in the first place. So we're going to go for a little drive. I'm going to set the camera aside and explain step by step how you can get a good car finance deal. Now, first of all, I want to share my opinions at all about car finances, because there are always some people out there that say if you finance a car, that means you cannot afford it and you shouldn't buy it in the first place unless you put down the cash. Now, in some ways, there is a point to this. However, I don't agree to this fully, because let's just get out of this car park. So, because first of all, I'll give an example on this particular car, the CLA 45 AMG. When I bought it, it was about £25,000, and if I would take £25,000 and put this on the car, in my opinion, that's a very silly thing to do, because obviously cars go down in value, there are depreciations in cars, and it's a silly investment. If you have 25 grand, or if I would take 25 grand, put in a car, the money would only depreciate over time. And if I would take the 25 grand and invest it in something else that I can make money from, so I like my money to make money, and that's the key to success. And if I spend all this cash on a car, in my opinion, that's silly, because it's not going to get me anywhere. And you know, I'd rather do a finance and pay a little bit more in rates and percentage, of course, interest rates, but I can make more overall, more than the interest rate is costing me on this with this money. So that's my first opinion regarding car finances. So those who say you shouldn't buy a car unless you can put the cash down, no, I don't agree with that. You know, unless you're buying a cheap car for a couple of grand, maybe I would agree. But if you have a large chunk of money, in my opinion, it's not a smart deal to just spend it on a car, because most cars go down in value unless it's some investment car. But that's that. So now we're going to talk about how you can get a good finance deal. So the first thing is you have to have a decent credit score. Now, there's a misconception out there. People think you need the best score to get a car deal. In today's days, it's a lot easier to get car finances, and even if your credit is not the best of the best, you can still get a fairly decent deal. However, there are ways to get these deals, because you need to know how to get these deals. Because ultimately, if you go to any dealership, if you don't understand the process, they will most likely, or not most likely, but there is a big chance that they will kind of push you a deal so they can make a bigger profit, especially if you don't know what you're dealing with. So I've got everything down on a piece of paper, because I wanted to kind of go through a few things that I believe are very important. So the first thing is, of course, your age. Now, if you're very young, you obviously don't have much credit history, so you're quite fresh, I would say. So you need to build your credit history, so in order to get good credit score, right? And there are a couple of ways out there, especially if you're young, you need to build a history. And what most lenders do is they look back on history, you know, how you've paid in the past, and, you know, amount of loans you've had in the past and how you paid it back, and if your payments were always on time, and all those kind of things. So if you don't have a history, you have to start making history. And a lot of times people will ask me or talk to me about finances, and they tell me they don't even have a credit card because they don't like credit cards. Now, I understand to some point credit cards are not always the best things, because a lot of people do end up in debt from credit cards. However, if you don't have a credit card, you potentially could be losing out a lot on your credit score. So the point is that you should get a credit card if you don't have one, not because you need the credit to use it for something. It's because you want to build a credit history. And I personally would suggest you take this credit card, you use it every month and pay it back in full every month. So you just want to build a history with the credit card company, so to show that you can afford and you're responsible, you pay back on time, and all of that kind of stuff. So a credit card is very important to build your credit score. And if you new to this, or if you're young, there's always credit cards out there. Even if the high interest rates, it doesn't really matter, especially like if you have a new credit or your credit isn't great. There are always companies out there that are very expensive with interest rates. However, your goal is not to borrow the money. Your goal is to pay back in full every month, so you don't pay any interest anyways. Now, you do have to be careful with that because you do not want to end up in debt. So be responsible, because a lot of people end up with big debt from credit cards. So that's very important. And of course, another important thing for your credit score is it's important to build up a standing order direct debit. So for example, if you have any bills for your house, or mobile phone bills, or energy bills, gas and electric, it's good for you to have direct debits, monthly payments, so they see you're responsible, you pay your bills every month through your direct debits. That's another way to help build up your credit score. Now, this is another important thing to build your credit score, is to put yourself on the voting list if you're not already registered. So if you're not registered for voting and you're over 18, you can do this simply by going online to the Gov's website and just simply fill up some forms, and you got to sign some stuff. And to be fair, that could improve your credit score by quite a few points, because when you're on your voting list, it shows that you are someone responsible and linked to an address properly. So of course, addresses are very important with credit scores, and by being on a voting list, it kind of links you and connects you to the address. It just makes you like a stronger, solid base, if that makes sense. So do add yourself to the voting list if you're not there, and it's very easy to check it. If you sign up to one of these credit score companies online, and that will show you if you're on the voting list or not. So definitely check that just in case you're not. So here are my thoughts on getting a good deal. First of all, a lot of people think their standard bank is going to give them the best deal, and they go to the regular bank to get a finance deal or quote. And let me tell you something, from my experience, I've financed quite a few cars in the past, and my bank never gave me the best rates. The best rates I found through is some car dealerships, and there are ways, of course, how to get this. First of all, as I said, you need to do your research. You need to know how this stuff works before you go and take a finance, especially if you don't want to get robbed, or no, I wouldn't say robbed, but if you don't want to get ripped off, okay? So do make sure you understand the system and check all the documents. Don't just sign papers based on monthly payments. Now, there are also online comparison companies that promise you to give you the best deals. Now, I've learned my lesson from this stuff, because I've signed up once online to a company that basically arranges car finance, and I really regret it, because the company is a very big company. I'm not going to give names here, but it's very popular. And what I did is I filled up all my details, and they basically done 4 different hard credit checks, and every time you do a hard credit check, your points, your credit score drops by quite a few points. And what they did is they done so many searches via so many different lenders, and every lender done a hard search, and my credit score went down a large amount of points just from that company basically searching through all these lenders. And I definitely regret doing that, because after all, just gave me a bad rate and just messed up my credit score. So personally, I do not recommend you doing that. You're better off searching with one company. So first, find your reliable company. In my personal case, it's a dealership that I work with, and they always look after me and give me good rates. I would rather do one search than doing hundreds of searches, because every search you do does affect your credit score. So avoid doing that. And here's another important tip. When you get a deal from the dealership, you can always try and negotiate and push. Now, I'm not trying to tell you be some annoying customer, because nobody wants those customers. However, a lot of times, from my experience, you know, I've managed to push down, even if it's a 0.5% of a number of the rate, it could come out to a big difference in overall money. So the monthly payment can go down £20, but over the whole term, it can be almost £1,000, if that makes sense. So try your best. Not always it's going to work, but try your best, because a lot of times dealerships do have room and the power to change the rates by small numbers, and overall those small numbers could come out to a big difference. So guys, don't be afraid to do that or try that, because in the end of the day it's all about you getting a better finance and saving money and getting the best deal. Of course, there are a few different types of finances. You got interest-only finance, you got PCP finance, you got whole finances. So you have to obviously know what you're going into the first place, work out what's the best for you. But guys, this is my thoughts, my opinions, how to get a good finance deal. Guys, don't just focus on the monthly payments, because that's the last thing you should worry about. I mean, of course, you do have to make sure they are affordable to you, but don't take a finance based on monthly payments, because when it comes time to sell the car, you can end up putting a lot of money out from your pocket just to get out of the car, and that's the last situation you want to be in. So guys, this is my thoughts. make sure you do your research and get the best deals out there. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider this. And guys, I'll see you on my next video. Bye now.